You got sick while you was there? You got sick while you was at Marcel's?
You love
Is that
me.
where you was sick?
You love me.
Oh yeah, I had,
Huh?
I was passing, but of course I thought I had one foot.
Gary,
Yeah.
they got a lot of time, they gotta get the shoes on, sit out and have a cigarette.
They were going to send me to Paris,
Well, I didn't think you could. What
Well,
was taking?
Sassone, France, little town just outside of Paris. They were going to send me there, and it took 3 weeks. I stayed in hospitals and just laid around.
I'm supposed to pick
By
out
the
my
time I
report.
got to
That's a half hour.
Sassone, hey, I was all right.
You got, oh, you haven't got to.
Wasn't
That's
that
only
wrong
about
with me?
10 minutes down there with them.
Alright, I'll put my
Stayed
shoes
in
on.
Sassone.
No, you don't have to. Boys, I just realized I gotta go pick up my grandkids at 4.
I stayed in Sassone
And our
about
cars,
3 months,
you're
I
gonna
guess.
have you take them out, I'll tell you what.
Kirk said
And,
your car
oh,
was here.
boring,
Oh, it is.
boring, boring. I didn't have nothing to do. I stood guard duty one time in 3 months,
I don't know, he might try to set my car.
and
What's wrong?
I had a little money,
Oh.
and I nursed that along, and I got in a poker game one night, and that
That's
did
yours
that.
also.
And,
Now, let me tell you one, Landon,
then we went to,
Golf.
then
There's
I went,
I'd like to play golf too.
There's a golf set down there that you can roll.
Well, you're gonna.
Now
go-
this was still in
you're gonna go on the
1942.
tire with-
no.
No?
When you were coming, it was drafted, is that it, or where you?
no, I was
No.
in Marseille, France.
Yeah,
We're gonna get in the car.
then he came home.
And then I went up and I went over and I ended up in
We're going to
Sassone,
go in
France.
We have to go
Well, we
down.
can't,
And-
because I gotta go pick
I
up
don't remember
my
much about
granddaughter
Sassone.
and come bring them back.
Well, anyway, I ended up in Paris. I had 3 days
And then
in
we'll
Paris.
see what the 4 of
3
you.
days in Paris.
3 days in Paris.
Well, my
I
granddaughter.
went
will be
into-
10 Sunday.
Can we pause just a minute?
You know, she.
But why do you have to pick them up?
Down on motorcycle.
Okay, so you had gone to Paris for 3 days,
I'm just gonna say,
and from there, where did you go?
We can
Uh,
talk in the car.
okay.
Well, let's see now. I went from Sassone, Paris. Had 3 days in Paris. While I was in Paris, I saw the Arc de Triomphe and saw all that stuff, you know. And
Did you go up the Eiffel Tower, Dan?
no, I didn't
Didn't
go up.
you go up?
No,
I was always curious about it.
it's a cramp.
Uh-oh,
His legs cramped.
we're capturing this on film.
Yeah.
This will be worth at least $10,000.
Oh, yes, that was-
Groceries and kind of cities
Oh.
and Tokyo
Is it
and
That's
okay?
better.
Point the bar.
Okay.
And whew. Where was I?
You were in
You
Paris?
saw the Trump
Arc.
Arch de
Oh, yeah,
Triomphe,
Trump.
but you didn't go up the Eiffel
Oh
Tower.
no, I didn't go up that one. I went from let's see, went to the Arch de Triomphe.
Did you go to the left bank?
No.
Did you go?
He went into a bar, got
I
loaded,
went in.
they had to go
I
to
went
that.
into a bar with
Let's,
we,
first we have to check in town, see what kind of
we,
joints they run.
we decided, I was with a big old tall Texan, and we decided we'd have a few drinks, you know, start things up. And we went in, we were walking down the street, and the bars were open, just wide open, you just walk in. And we walked in the bar, and I'm standing at the end, or on the
I don't
inside
think
end,
you
the
should
big
tell that.
Texan, and standing there minding my own business. And there was the tallest one I ever saw in my life, come over, Hello, big boy.
Do that again. How did she do it?
Hello, big boy. She says, okay, I won't say what she said, but she just came right out and,
She wanted to show you
Proposition.
a good time.
right.
Right.
Did you let her?
She
Huh?
wanted
Did you
nine
let her?
ounces
Wow.
of chocolate.
By the time I got through stuttering and stammering, she just laughed at me and went on. It was just out of the blue, you know. Hello, big boy. She propositioned me, and I couldn't get over that.
Well, it happened to you at Westland, so.
Huh?
It happened to you over at the shopping center, remember? You was
Oh, yeah.
Waiting for mine, and a day worker come up.
So after you were there in Paris for 3 days, where did you go?
Where did I go from Paris? Oh, I went to cigarette camps. They had cigarette camps in different camps, and I went. That was in September, and I went to cigarette camps, and I stayed there until December. Came home, but and now that was a boring.
What is a cigarette camp? Is that where they just distribute?
Yeah, well, we layover is what we were doing. Just,
It's like a transit camp.
Oh, it's not where they distribute cigarettes. It's,
Oh, no.
It's,
Oh.
You gotta smoke whenever you want.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'd get my,
nobody's permanent there,
I get my daily, my
just to hold.
monthly
it's
ration
going
of
in.
cigarettes, and I'd trade them off. I didn't smoke, so I'd trade off my cigarettes. But
So then they shipped you back to the States from there? From
yeah,
Paris?
I came from. Gee, I guess we shipped out of Marseille. Seems like we did. Came back to Marseille and shipped out. Shipped out on a. Went over on a pleasure boat, and I shipped out on a pleasure boat. And when they went to load us on the shipboard, they had more men than
Bunks.
quarters, and I ended up in the hospital part up on. And I slept in a shower stall. You know, that's the only place I could. Hey, they just had men crammed up. They didn't jam the center. And then we hit a couple of storms. That little old boat, man, it rise up out of the sea. Ooh, wham, it hit the sea. And I'm glad I got off of that thing.
So what they bring you back into where, New York?
Boston.
Boston?
Landed in Boston. Landed in Boston and stayed there. Boston, stayed overnight at Boston, and then went to Edmonton, got to Pennsylvania. I guess that's where I got discharged in the town, yeah.
That's what you always said.
So once you got back to the States, you were discharged?
Well, yeah, shortly after I got back to the States, I was discharged. Boy, was I a happy man.
And then you met back up with your wife over here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was anxious to see his son.
Yeah, and you did have a child at that time, didn't you?
Yeah.
We had decided that we had loaded. Did we have loaded? And we got.
We went to
We
pick
got.
him up.
You came down to Toledo, no, Toledo.
Where'd you pick him up? That's right.
In Toledo, my
Oh.
mother and dad, my
Oh,
brother,
yeah, I guess it was
you
Toledo.
and I.
Yeah, you picked us up.
Yeah, I remember that now.
And I had on new issue. I had lost everything. I lost my duffel bag. I had a sword. pistol. I had all that loot,
All those good German
all
goodies.
that stuff.
And where was it lost? While you- on the ship from the?
Well, when we got over here, disappeared.
Well, you'd have got your duffel bag, but the sword and stuff been gone anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Them
Oh, yeah.
guys, they're pilfered everything.
Yeah, but anyway, I got a new issue.
Can you shut that off for a minute? I gotta tell this story. Your dear uncle got off of the,
What's that?
All right, I'm gonna record this.
Alright.
He don't have all his ribbons
Here, Mom.
and awards on.
My Purple Heart.
And Jerry was telling us that this was the Army Air Force.
Yeah,
It was the Army Air Corps, is what they called it.
yeah, Army Air Corps.
Excuse me. Okay.
And then after the wars, when
Korea was the first
May,
war they
you
had
know,
the
get
Air
back-
Force.
Yeah, then they
I'm not asking you.
formed up the Air Force.
Okay, so you're back in the States and you're with your wife and her family, and she picked you up at Toledo, and
That's the end of the story.
then you all from Toledo you came back up to Romulus.
Yeah, where did we?
we
ended
rented a
up-
place in that,
We
in
came up.
Norwayne it's called.
We came up and we were at her folks. And he asked me, he says,
Now that was before we were married.
no, Smarty. Now she got me thinking. Anyway, yeah, I remember him, her dad asking us where we were gonna live. Oh, that's right. And I told him with you, I said, we're gonna live with you.
Yes,
And he laughed, he says, well, and then what you gonna do? And I said, I don't know, have any idea. All we knew was we were in love, we were gonna get married. And so that was
So
yeah, those were the good old days.
absolutely, and they're still good old days. It's just
Oh, yeah,
times are different, but
times are different, yeah.
and you just what kind of work did you do when you first got back to the
Well,
States?
now that was a problem. I didn't do anything. I was a farm boy. And, oh geez, what did I do? I went down to DeSoto. Remember the old DeSotos?
Uh-huh.
DeSoto had a plant right in the edge of
Amanda,
Detroit,
are you taking any
Wyoming.
reservations?
And I went down there
Okay,
and I got a job.
okay, if I
on
heard
one
10
of the
out
assembly
there about
lines.
6 o'clock, do you
And I
have any
worked down
idea how
there
long we'd
for-
have to wait?
About 4 or 5 months. And they put me on, I was young and full of stuff and vinegar. And they put me on a little seat
Mm-hmm,
with a skate wheel top.
okay,
And I'm sitting down here and I
do
put
you think it would be an hour or
bolts.
something like that?
in fenders. I'd scoot around the car,
Okay,
boop, boop,
thank
boop,
you
boop,
muchly.
scoot out.
Bye-bye.
I scooted around on that thing, but I had calluses on my butt. And
And what was the year here? 1940.
40,
You're
when I worked at DeSoto's,
Oh Lord, when did you get out of service? I gotta think about
40,
that.
40,
When did you start Purelator, Jim? What year did you
40,
start?
46, 47, 46.
Okay, so it would have been,
About 45, 46.
mhm.
Can you remember what the wages
Oh, yeah.
was?
Dollar something now.
Of course, the war's still going on. And
Oh, I thought I was making big money, and then I started working at DeSoto's and making big money.
How's come we were poor, Paula? You know what I think we'll do?
I didn't work.
I just think we'll either go out to Applebee's, which is on do you ever eat at
Oh,
Applebee's?
yeah.
And we'll go, well, if the kids wanna go to Red Lobster, we'll go.
Starting.
Sorry?
So you was making $1 and something
Yeah.
per hour,
I made
or-
a little over $1 an hour.
This was with the DeSoto plant.
soda plant. And then I worked there for about 6 months, something like that. And I went to Industrial Wire right from DeSoto, didn't
It was called industrial wire.
I? Yeah, it was called Industrial Wire in those days. And I went to work in there. I worked there for about, God, a long time.
About 20,
25
30 years.
Worked there a long time. Got to know that place pretty well.
And you retired from there?
Retired from there. No, I retired.
Yes, you retired from Gerlater.
Well, I retired from, no, I didn't. I retired from the school,
Well, honey,
but
okay.
I retired from the school system. I worked at Gerlater, and then I quit there, and I went to work for the school system. I worked school system, what, about 3 years, 3 years, wasn't it?
He retired from Gerlater and he was bored and wanted a job, so he went to work for the school system.
Yeah, that's right. I worked for the school system for
I don't know, did he stay anything?
I don't know.
3 or 4 years. No, I didn't work that long for the school system. 2 or 3 years, a couple of years.
But you raised your family here in Romulus.
Yeah,
Which
we
was-
lived in Norway. And we started out in 4 family units. Mom and I started out in a 4 family unit. And then we moved to a 2 family unit, upstairs and downstairs. We moved to a 2 family unit, and then we moved to a single home. We had a little single home. We lived in 2 places then, didn't we? Yeah. We moved to a single unit. I remember we lived in a double family one time. Norma yelled something and I went out to look, and it was 2 women fighting. You remember that?
Yep, across the street, rolled on the ground.
Oh, they got down on the ground pulling hair and rolled. What a sight.
Things like that didn't happen in Kentucky.
No, they sure didn't.
No.
The only thing wrong with Norway is everything was set out just alike. And you'd see poor guys wandering around in their
Yeah.
cars.
Couldn't find their home?
Yeah,
couldn't
couldn't
find
find
their
their home. The
And
4,
one night,
especially the 4 family units.
yeah, well, one night this couple put a roll of tar paper out in front of their house so the husband could remember. And while he was gone, somebody moved the tar paper, and he was lost for
That was confusing.
There's one thing I wanna, let's go back to or come back into was, when you and Mother and Mary and Catherine all got back together for the first time. That you all as a family had gotten back together. Do you remember that? When you had your reunion before Mother died?
Gosh, I'll have to think about that.
It would have been probably 73, because Mother died in 1974. And, yeah. Now, you had seen your sisters,
Uh-huh.
but never all of you together since your separation
Yeah.
as children, had you?
No, we hadn't. I remember when we got together, we took a picture with Aunt Mattie.
Yes, Aunt
Yeah,
Mattie was there.
Aunt Mattie was in the picture. Gosh, who's got that on?
I have a picture of you, so it had to have been 1973, because if Mother died in 74, and Aunt Maddie died. She died in 74 also. She died in the spring of 74, I think, before Mother did. And you came to Bowling Green, and do you remember what that was like for all of you to be together at one time?
Oh,
And-
yeah. That was fun. That was a happy time.
And what I remember is you all, each one telling how things had been for you, and some of the others not knowing how it had been, you know. That, of course, once you were separated from the school, you know, what each one experienced. Like Aunt Mary went on to, she married at an early age, didn't she?
Yeah,
She never had
she
a
was,
chance.
poor thing, she was 13 or 14, 15, along in there somewhere when she got married. And her husband was 30 years old when they got married. And, but he was good to her. He was a good man.
He was.
Yeah, a good man. He was good, and he worked at Akron, Ohio, at a rubber plant, and only went home weekends. He'd go
Make
home
up
and
a lost time on those weekends.
yeah, poor guy.
Yeah. And she had how many children? How many children did Aunt Mary
Well,
have?
I said 13. Norma said 15.
She had 15. She had 15
15?
children, and they're all living, all still living at this date.
Well, tell them about you and Larry going over to see her. When you were down to Kentucky one time, you decided to go over and see Mary,
Oh yeah,
and Larry was with you.
Larry had a new car. Larry and I went over to see her, and
And was this in Stanford, Kentucky, that you all?
yeah, it was near Stanford. Trying to think of the place. I can't think of the place. But we got there, and we couldn't get to the house with the car. The house, there was a creek ran down through here and a bridge. And we had to cross the bridge, get over there to the house. We had to leave the car over here. But went over there. I never saw as many children in all my life. Boy, they were just children everywhere. And I asked Mary, I said, "These all yours?" And she started laughing. She said, "No, it's just grandchildren." God, there must have been 20 children. I never saw as many kids in my life.
Well, she has some grandchildren older than her children, much
Wow.
older
Yeah.
than her children.
Oh yeah,
And they do have a big family, but you know, they get together and,
and they must have a ball.
yeah, they do. They do.
Jimmy, what was she cooking
I don't know.
in a wash tub?
Corn,
Corn, boiling corn.
boiling corn in a wash tub.
Can you think of an easier way to do it when you
Boy,
gotta feed that many children?
When you feed that many, boy. I
And she
tell you.
was very contented.
Well,
Oh,
sure.
she was happy as a lark.
She's
She
their
really
oldest
it
one
was-
for taking care of the younger one.
Mary was sitting there, and I remember I walked across the creek and up on the porch, or the edge of the porch, and she's sitting there. Well, James Calvin. Just same. It's the same old Mary.
Had any of the sisters and grandmama been together? Seen each other over the years?
I don't know.
Yes, yes, because Aunt Catherine, I remember Aunt Catherine and Ralph would periodically come in and
Oh, yeah.
bring the children for us to see, and, but as far as Uncle James, Aunt Mary, Aunt Catherine, and Mother all being together as
At the
a-
same time?
at the same time, it didn't happen till 40 some odd years later, wasn't
Oh,
it?
yeah.
And your dad arranged that, your father
Yes.
arranged that.
My daddy got that together, and
Was Grandmama already hospital or
Well,
bed bound?
she had the Lou Gehrig's then. That's one reason we decided, we needed to do it.
But we
But,
didn't know it. You
No,
didn't tell us.
but she had it.
Took a while to diagnose what was wrong with her, didn't it?
Mhm. But now I can remember the time, that I can remember the reunion. And
I can too.
Yeah. it was just
It was really,
really an emotional time, but it was.
and I didn't have a chance to talk.
For once, Aunt Norma couldn't talk, could she?
Right.
Somebody else dominated the conversation. But
Now Jerry's taking over from me.
yeah.
We chattered all the time.
The biggest adventure was when Jim married me. I had practically never been on a Romulus, and so we got on train and went to Grandpa Stevens. Now your dear uncle had told me some of the worst things you'd ever heard. We had to swing in on a grapevine, and
I had her crying.
it was terrible. Grandpa Stevens had an old farmhouse, and in the parlor was a stove, and the stovepipe went up through the ceiling.
You told that.
Did I tell that? I told it to Karen, I think. And anyway, he set the pot on that tin part. So I had to use it, go to the bathroom, and it sounded like they were having a thunderstorm outside. And he is laughing so hard, he thought it was and he used to do things like that to me all the time.
So you had how many children? You and Norma have how many children?
3 boys.
3 boys.
3 boys. I quit. Norma kept producing boys, and so I gave up.
We have 3 sons. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grandchildren
5 grandchildren.
and 4 great grandchildren.
4 great grandchildren.
Yeah, I forgot about that. We do
So
have
when
grandchildren.
when did you sell your home in Romulus? And you sold the home that you and Norma had lived in many years, raised your family here, and then you all moved to a lake, didn't you?
Yeah. We had the place at the lake, and we sold the house,
Okay.
and we moved into the hospital building.
And I kept working,
Yeah,
and I wanted to work until I was 62.
What's the hospital building? I don't.
Oh, there was apartments.
It's
Oh.
right up here, apartment building.
Okay.
We moved into there.
And then I retired.
I remember I had a sale. I sold Norma's clothes.
Did she know you were selling?
No, I mean, Jim was always doing something to me. I came home from work when we were in the apartment, and he had this metal thing out there.
There was a big metal rack with a bar across it to hang stuff on. And I
Gone in my closet.
went in Norma's closet and got all of her clothes and
You didn't have any of yours out there?
Oh no.
No, he just sold mine.
And I got it, put it out in front of the building.
And there was a sweater skirt in there that still had the tags on them. I'd never worn them.
Did you make money? Did you make some money?
Yeah. Made about $100.
Go buy new clothes.
New big woman came in.
Oh, she had a ball.
She's out there, and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to see that all around town. Oh, your Uncle Jim is a neatnik. He cannot stand things. I mean, you see things in here that you've never seen before because he always had to get rid of everything. and he cleaned the basement one time, and my grandmother had crocheted a bedspread for me, and Jimmy threw it away.
Dirty.
Because it had been in a box in the basement, and she had sewn it by hand, and some of it came apart. Jimmy threw it away. I could kill
Probably
him.
never lived that down, have you?
No,
No.
there was more than that.
My Sherwoods, my God.
Was there more questions that you wanted to ask?
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
Kurt.
It's Kurt.
Good morning.
Now, she's
Very
like
good
that.
Your mama.
Mother would carry a grudge more than,
Well, the things that were done to those children, yes, there should have been a big grudge. Because what happened was their father kept her children and they sent his children away. And the father, I couldn't imagine a father doing anything like that.
well, I can't either.
But yet Jim, you know,
No, I don't blame my dad. No. I
Oh,
didn't
your
know
dad?
my dad real well. I never saw him. Only Saturday.
Well, as you just said, you was young enough that that was just kind of an adventure to you to,
I had a good time. Being a boy, life was different for me than it was my sister. I'm sure it was.
not one time, and Jimmy didn't tell you about it, I wanted to tell you about it. Mary Ida just absolutely had no place to go. And she came down to Grandpa Stevens and stayed for a little while, didn't she, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
and how old would she have been then?
No, it's before
Young. She was,
it's before she was married.
yeah, she was
So
12, 13 years old.
how would she have known where you was? Did she, I mean, did,
Well, I know. Steve was out of Russell Springs. Or, I knew where she was. She was at Stanford.
Stanford?
And she had been beaten,
Oh,
treated very, very cruelly.
She had a temper.
Well, it wasn't her.
Well, maybe it wasn't her fault.
you know, I've
but-
often wondered if she ever shared any of this with her children. Do they, you know, how much of this do they know?
I had no idea.
Um,
I know also that Mary Ida was at one place, and the people were so mean, they beat her with a broom handle. She just never had a chance. It was one of the saddest lives I've ever heard.
You better come get these.
but,
They're no good. You guys better leave them alone.
but now Catherine,
Here you go. Hand 'em.
really, she did not live in an abusive
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Oh,
home.
She was she
Catherine.
was a
Catherine
only
had a,
child,
Catherine had
taken
a,
care of her very well.
Yeah, these are lousy.
Catherine had a good place to stay. Mary Ida had a lovely place to stay.
Yeah, that's sad that it worked out that way, but you know, up until you all got together in 1973, us kids, we didn't know what had happened, other than, they had been separated, but mother never really told
She didn't talk
us.
about it. Well,
If we knew it, I mean, it probably just didn't have a big bearing on our life at the time, until it was just all told that day.
Well, the first time that I went to your mother and dad's house was in 1943, and we always kept in touch with Neil and Marshall, always. But you know, I never saw Mary Ida for many, many years after we were married, and I saw very little of Catherine, but she did come to our home here in Romulus one time. But Jim felt very, very close to your dad's mother. That to him was his family.
Mary, Catherine, you'd say, Catherine, get me the nuts off of that. And she'd say, well, A woman to say well at everything.
I can hear her say that.
Yeah. Well,
Well, it would be interesting to, to also video them and, to listen
Oh,
to, of
yeah.
course, Mary in the shape that she's in now. But,
Well, we, after Jimmy and I were married, we also went to Grandpa Stevens a lot. And, I smoked. And Grandpa Stevens, I was in the kitchen, I didn't smoke in front of him.